So with regard to family, you've made a really interesting point about the phrase brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Which I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard many people talk about that. Help us with that.
You know, I think I first came on that when I did a study of Philemon, and I heard Paul talk about Onesimus as his heart, as his like beating heart, his heart walking around. And I could identify that with that as a father. But I'm like, you know, the gospel's way bigger than that. I need to have like my beating heart like all over the place. That's really what like the witness of the gospel is. And so for me, family has come to be, I mean, it's not my idea, it's Jesus' idea, really.
Sure,
right?
we'll give him the footnote.
Yeah, we'll give Jesus
Okay.
the credit for that. So Jesus is helping us reimagine what the family looks like, and that's the church. And I think the church needs to look really radical. Adoption is the norm. It's not conception. The church is born by adoption and baptism.
Yes.
And how will that change the way that we interact with one another, the way that we love one another, the way that we feel for one another in their hurt? It's not just like I said earlier, it's not like, that's too bad for you, I'm sorry for your loss. It's like, we both had this loss. How do we move on from here?
So this idea of brothers and sisters is so much richer and deeper than maybe even some people would pour meaning into based on their family experience. Is that a fair way to put that?
Yeah, and I think one of the things we see is Jesus' promise, as Mark Charles put it. So we just had Mark Charles, a Native American, come to our campus, and he says, let me make sure I get this right. He said, persecution is the barometer of our discipleship. And
Wow.
To think about that as a promise from Jesus, I mean, it sounded like what Pastor Hawkins was talking about today, right? Like, you will suffer. If you're going to follow Jesus, you will suffer. And if we start getting this figured out, we start realizing that this persecution might come from your biological family.
So there was this idea you were talking about, there's kind of a thickness to this relationship.
Yeah.
And earlier you were talking about baptism being really a part of the initiation into this family of God.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great quote that I heard from you about baptism. Will you give us that quote and explain it?
Yeah, so Dominique Du Bois-Gilliard, he wrote a book called Rethinking Incarceration. And one of the things he says, I can't remember if he says it in the book or if he said it in a visit on campus, but he says, the waters of baptism are thicker than blood. And that's just, that's exactly right.
You don't forget that once you've heard it.
it'll cement itself in your mind.